So, today I'm very quickly going to go over Reaper and Protector. Last time I talked about a UAS that could fit in between your index finger and your thumb. So now it only really feels fair to talk about the UAS with superlative strike. That's the MQ9-A and the MQ9-B, the famous Reaper drone and the incoming Protector drone, which is a sort of variation. Now they're both strike drones, meaning their role is to endure, to remain at high altitude above the area of operation, to track soldiers, to carry out ISR, and if needed, to perform a strike. Now Reaper is of course the most famous of these platforms. A lot of people know it from Call of Duty, alongside the Predator drone, which falls into the same category. These two basically are the real push forward in drone technology. They're hardened and they've been improved via combat testing in Iraq and Afghanistan. Now, prior to Reaper and Predator, one was stuck with really outdated technology from the Gulf War. Drones which were slated for about 20 hours of flight endurance, which were small, only had ISR value. They had no strikeability. But despite the fact that they were slated for about 20 hours of operation, the chance of them crashing after the 8-hour mark was absolutely huge. Now the new drones that they brought in, that's Reaper, that's Predator, all developed. I'll leave a link to it. There's a really brilliant documentary on these drones. They were more effective. They could operate higher, they could strike, they had superior camera systems, and in my view, most importantly, the technology needed to operate them had already been established. And what I mean by that is, let's say the data link from a satellite was finally secure enough, finally adept at the role it had to carry out. And importantly, this means money can be invested into those programs because the drone becomes far more of an asset. Its recovery is expected. It's not expected to perish within the field. It's not expected to die after the 8-hour mark, to lose control. It can be used again and again, and that means it's a real asset. That means one can invest heavily in the technology in order to improve it, in order to actually improve capability, because it's not expected to crash. It means that funds are diverted from, giving it an extra hour of flight time to ensuring that it can, have a really excellent camera, that ISR value is increased. Now, both Predator and Reaper are really effective, but the UK chooses the Reaper drone as a complement to manned systems. Reaper itself is a medium-range, remotely piloted, long-endurance UAS, unmanned aerial system. Now, it's operated generally from a ground control station, and this could be, a long way away because there is satellite link. The Reaper, the UAS which is currently in service with the UK, is a really incredible piece of technology. It utilizes a 900 SHP Honeywell TPE33110 turboprop engine. Now, a lot of people scoff at the turboprop engine. Someone said it looked like something you'd find on a biplane before the First World War, but this is important because it gives it a slower speed. It gives it beneficial, sort of more beneficial endurance for missions that the Reaper is designed for. And actually, it going slower is kind of it's quite a good thing. It can keep watch over an area for a longer period of time. It can fly at up to 287 miles per hour. Now, of course, you want to move more slowly than that. The thing that largely facilitates it to strike, to conduct ISR, is going slowly. And the thing that allows it to go so slowly is largely the wingspan. The designer took inspiration from a gliding albatross, and so the Reaper has a pretty big wingspan in comparison to the drones you might see in the Gulf War. It has a wingspan of 21.12 meters. It's 11 odd meters long and about 3.5 meters in height. Now, of course, Reaper carries weapon systems, and that's something that's differentiated it from the other UAS in the past. And it needs to carry out a long flight in order to be effective. It has a 20-hour duration and can just be used for ISR. You can send it up what they call clean, which means with no weapons loaded. But if one does fit the armaments, then strike is enabled. But this does reduce the endurance to about 12 hours of duration. Now that's not such an awful trade-off because the Reaper is carrying a lot of firepower. It can carry two 500-pound GBU-12 laser-guided bombs and four AGM-114 Hellfire missiles. And this is what's largely been used in wars that are associated with the War on Terror. And that's what's given it such excellent strike capability. It also has two cameras, one for takeoff, which faces forward, it shows what's ahead of the aircraft, and the other, which is the more prominent one, the one you see on the bottom. It's a bit of a bull turret, as it were. It's a prominent turret camera, which has a full sensor suite. It has targeting capabilities in conventional vision, infrared vision, to be used at night as well. And in addition, the turret has a sensor unit that incorporates synthetic aperture radar, which gives it really, really good overview of what's going on. Now, Protector, also known as Sky Guardian, is what the RAF will replace the Reaper with, despite the fact Reaper is really adept at what it does. The UK is planning to acquire an additional 10 units of Protector, in addition to matching the full number of old Reaper models that it has. It's far more advanced Protector, and has far more firepower because it implements more specific munitions. So as I said before, Reaper has 6 weapons hardpoints. That's basically two guided bombs, 2 laser guided bombs, and then 4 Hellfire slots, effectively. And again, that's pretty powerful on its own, but Protector has 7 weapons hardpoints. That doesn't sound like a lot more, but it is, because it means a lot more can be incorporated when you consider that you don't have to use Hellfire anymore. You don't have to use the guided bombs that were used before. So the UK plans to use Brimstone 3 and Paveway 4. And this is of course nothing out of the ordinary. This means that if one wanted, one could install 6 Paveway 4 units to be equipped, and that would be really, really powerful on its own. But if the RAF really wanted to, they could use Brimstone to bring something new, and they will do. Brimstone missiles are stored, or added to hardpoints in a sort of triple pod system. It's in a sort of semi-rhomboid orientation. What this means is that the RAF can not only get far more effective Brimstone missiles, because Brimstone is better than Hellfire in replacing Hellfire, but it also means that on each of the 7 hardpoints, you can equip 3 Brimstone missiles, and that's huge. This means that of the 7 hardpoints, you could potentially have 21 potent Brimstone 3 missiles equipped, and that's an enormous amount of firepower. That increases firepower as well as accuracy. Or again, alternatively, they could change it to mix it up. They can use 2 Paveway 4s, 15 Brimstone 3 units, but we must recognise that really, really does increase the ability, both the precision and the, firepower, the ability to conduct multiple strikes that this drone has. And again, it can be used clean entirely as well. It can be used just for ISR value. But it's certainly an upgrade to the 4 Hellfires that came before on the Reaper. Now, munition slots aren't the only thing that have been improved. The new Protector drone will be far better. I was talking about the sort of arguments against UAS, against unmanned systems, but its ability to operate is going to make it far, far less capable of performing strikes which may have collateral damage, which may cause accidental strikes, which is obviously the sort of thing we want to avoid. But first, it has anti-icing capability, which opens it up to an area of operation with a far more diverse set of environments. And speaking of diverse environments, it can operate in far more busy areas. It has a system by which it can autonomously detect and avoid other aircraft. And that means that it can, really operate within the airspace well and complement other units. Now, it can autonomously take off and land as well, which means that the operator doesn't necessarily need that forward camera. I think it still exists, but it means the operator can basically spend their time actually preparing, actually thinking about the tactical situation rather than take off. Now, in regard to sensor systems, Protector again has a huge upgrade. It's able to use advanced infrared imaging, far better than the old one, for night use, as well as really, really high definition electro-optical imaging for the advanced cameras, conventional cameras, and that makes it far more useful for information as well. These are some of the most advanced cameras on the planet with some of the best high resolution that has ever been seen. And of course, all the trimmings that come with that need, to be in place to facilitate that sort of infrastructure. That's improved data link. That's more efficient electrical pathways, that sort of thing. So it's got better cameras. It's more precise. It can see more, and has more munitions, and doesn't ice up, and can avoid other aircraft autonomously, and can take off automatically. Now, if that wasn't enough, Protector also has an increased wingspan. And what that means is that, like an albatross, it can glide for far longer. It has increased takeoff weight, naturally, but more importantly, its increased wingspan allows it to have far higher endurance, as well as improvements to the engine and the overall systems to make it more efficient. It has over 40 hours of capability. It has a 40-hour endurance time, which is huge. So, all in all, if we're looking at Reaper, Reaper is really powerful on its own, really useful on its own, but Protector is even more powerful, even more useful, to a far greater degree, and it's coming in 2024, and that's going to be, that's going to add huge capability, particularly as more are required. We'll have a larger Protector fleet than even the Reaper fleet. So, all in all, ISR is better, payload is increased, operational time is more than tripled, precision is superior, everything is better. 2024 is coming. Prepare for Protector, and I'll leave it there.